only way that we can even survive is if he steps in and he says, "Cut those days short."
If we didn't have Jesus, we would be owned by devil and have to go to hell. It would be very bad. And it was all thanks to our heavenly Lord. Jesus died on the cross for us. And if he didn't do it, we could have all gone to hell. And it would be very horrible. He died for our sin, which is a very good thing.
That's true. At that time, if anyone says to you, "Here is the Christ," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false Christ and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. So what does that mean, a false Jesus? That means people will be fake, right? People will be walking around saying they're Jesus, but they won't really be Jesus. Well, how will you know the difference? How will you know the difference between a fake Jesus and the real Jesus?
Well, the real Jesus wouldn't lie. He'd do good things to you, and he would do miracles.
Okay, but Jesus said that even the false Jesuses would do miracles. Sarah, Jacob, how will you know the difference then between a false Jesus and the real Jesus?
Because the real Jesus doesn't lie.
Okay, they're good. The real Jesus doesn't lie. Jesus said we'll know them by their fruit. So if it's the real Jesus, it'll do the things and say the things that the real Jesus did. But if it's a false Jesus, it'll lie. It'll just try to trick us. But it won't be real. How else might you tell the difference between a fake Jesus and the real Jesus?
That's hard.
Do you think a fake Jesus would show love and kindness?
No.
No. If I tell you I'm a Christian, does that mean I'm a Christian? Or do I have to do something more than just use words?
Yes, you have to do something more than just use words. Just chill.
Right. It's not what I say, but it's what I do. So, if somebody claims to be Jesus, we'll know whether or not they're the real Jesus or a false Jesus, not by what they say, but by what they
do.
That's what Jesus said. We'll know them by their fruit. And Jesus says, "See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, 'There he is out in the desert,' do not go out. Or 'Here he is in the inner rooms,' do not believe it. For as lightning comes from the east and is visible even in the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Well, what does that mean? Will we see signs in the sun and the moon and the stars?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe like meteor showers and eclipses and harvest moons and maybe colorful signs in the heavens. Do you think it means something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, what do you think?
Hey, Dad. You know how my
Sarah,
teacher...
What do you...
Hey, Dad. You know what my teacher told me in class one time? It was called... Well... Let's say that it was back in a long time ago. It was very long ago when this one was a teenager. They were called the two twin towers. And there's this thing called, there's this bad guys in the plane. They broke one of the twin towers. And then Miss Williams was like, "What's going on?" And so she saw this thing on the TV, which was very scary.
Right, that was September the 11th, 2001.
And many people died.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that there's a daycare down there, and many of the children died, which is sad. And the policemen, the firefighters that tried to save them died in it.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, there's nothing but just dust and ash.
Let's finish the last few words that Jesus spoke about when we would know if it was close to the end. In verse 30, "At that time the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and the nations of the earth will mourn." You know what mourn means? To cry. They will cry. "They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. He will send his angels with a loud trumpet, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Jesus says in verse 32, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." Do you remember when we went camping in Shenandoah?
Mm-hmm.
Remember we woke up in the morning and the bees were buzzing everywhere and there were flowers and hummingbirds?
They were all singing.
Right.
And the hawks and the deer and the bunnies, they're all singing to God, saying, "Holy, holy is the God so mighty, who was and is
weren't the hawks eating the
Right.
deers
It's
and
like-
rabbits?
It's like all creation was singing praise to God. Now, Jesus said that we would not know the exact hour or the day that he's coming back, but he said we would know the season. And he said it's like this. You know how when you walk outside, you don't know exactly when spring's going to get here? But you know now, like when it's winter and everything's dead, you know that when spring comes, you know right before summer, and you know when spring's getting ready to burst forth because, well, you know, the insects start to wake up and the birds start flying and coming back and starting to make noise and sing. And
Right now, the birds are flying to
And-
south for the winter, right?
right, but you know when, you don't know the exact hour when spring's going to come, but you know it's getting close when you see the flowers come out of the ground and the trees begin to bud.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Jesus is saying, how we'll know that it's getting close for him to come back. He says we won't know the exact day. Like, I can't say Jesus is coming back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I can't know that, but I can look at the signs, and when I see the signs, just like I see signs of spring, I know it's close. Now, taking a look at the news, do you see signs that Jesus is coming back based on what he said?
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of signs do you see?
People dying.
Well, okay, but people have always died. Jesus said, what were some things Jesus said we would see that would happen, that we would know we're close to the time of his return?
People chopping each other's heads off.
Well, okay, that
Yeah,
goes
it's a
on.
bit too violent.
That goes on. That's a big graphic, but did Jesus say there would be earthquakes?
Yes.
Okay, famines?
Yes.
Yes. What's a famine?
Oh, yeah,
When
yeah,
people
what's
go
that?
hungry and they starve to death and they don't have enough food.
Then yes.
Yeah, lots of children every night go to bed hungry in this world. They don't have food.
The four things.
What else? People's love would grow cold. Well, what does that mean?
That means that they'll hate their own people that they used to love.
Yeah. You look at the news and sometimes you see children who kill their parents and parents who kill their children.
That's horrible.
Brother turns against brother.
What does that mean?
That means that brothers fight themselves. And people's enemies are members of their own family. But Jesus warned us that that would happen. He said...
It's just like, what's it called? World War II?
World War II,
It was
right?
just like that really evil man who killed so many people just because they didn't look like him and talk like him.
Hitler, right? His name was
Hitler.
Hitler. And he killed...
Hitler was a horrible man.
He was an evil man, right? And he killed so many people. His love had grown cold in his heart. To him, people were nothing. And he could kill them just because they
And
weren't
so
like
many
him.
bad guys joined him.
Right?
Evil people.
If it happened back then, do you think it could happen again?
It could. Yeah. It's very possible.
It could. So let me ask you a question. Are you afraid? Or do you have hope in something?
Hope in something.
You have hope for the future?
Yes.
Why? What do you hope in?
I'm hoping that God will take us back to heaven. And
God-
create a new earth.
He will create a new heaven and a new earth, you said. Is heaven going to be a good place?
Very good.